Hi!
Hi!
Okay, welcome to Ayurveda podcast. This is our first episode and you are our first honorary guest.
Yay!
I am a brand ambassador for Ayurveda, and they have their Ayurvedic oil blends, but actually I'm just on a journey of discovering what this kind of traditional wellness is about, and I think not everybody knows what Ayurveda is, so that's what we will talk about today. But first, tell me about you.
So my name is Elvi and I am an Ayurvedic health practitioner. Right now living in Costa Rica. And I have been exploring the world of Ayurveda in the past 7-8 years. But before that, I have worked in New York. This is where Irina and I met in the past. And I have worked as part of a HR team in corporate, in startups, as part of a consulting team, until I made a switch in, I think it was in 2020, when I switched fully to becoming an Ayurvedic practitioner. And that's what I do right now full time.
Where did the interest come from?
It started from my own healing journey. As far as I remember myself going back into childhood, I always had issues with my digestion, and I spent a lot of time in hospital with doctors, and they were trying to figure out the pain in my stomach, the magical pain. Nobody knew where it came from, and I never really received an answer to what it was, although I went through immense amount of treatment when I was a child. And as I was growing up, naturally I started to grow interest into different modalities, into more natural medicine, alternative medicine, and this is how Ayurveda came into my life. But a real deep dive has started when my first daughter, my older daughter, started to have issues with her health. And I couldn't find reasonable enough help in the world of, I guess I'm going to call it traditional medicine or more conventional medicine. And this is where I started to learn a little more. I started to take some courses, and eventually I went to College of Ayurveda, and I have received my Ayurvedic degree. And from there, it became obvious that this is what I want to do for life, because it just, it made sense to me. Mm-hmm. And I became very passionate and compassionate about the Ayurveda overall.
And did you try other approaches? There are so many diets these days. There is the keto and there is the being vegan, and I mean, it's honestly a sea of all kinds of methods that sometimes can be very confusing. Like, how did you specifically come to Ayurveda and decided that that was what made most sense?
Name a diet. I've tried it.
Wow.
I've tried all diets. I definitely tried keto and paleo. I've been vegan. I've been raw vegan for a while I still was in New York. I've tried it all, really, intermittent fasting. And what I do love about Ayurveda, that Ayurveda is not about a particular type of diet. It actually is a very individualized type of approach to your health. So there's no one-size-fits-all in Ayurveda at all, no matter what it is, no matter what you eat, no matter how your routine may look. It depends on your constitution, what it is that you're made of, where you live, how old you are, what climate are you in, what kind of season are you in, right? It's very flexible and adaptable. And what Ayurveda does, it teaches you to recognize what's your type and what works for you, what's your tendency, what might be out of balance right now, and how to bring that balance back through food and lifestyles.
Hmm. So we're coming to this question. If you had to explain what Ayurveda is to somebody who's absolutely clueless, how would you do it?
So, what Ayurveda is a very ancient um, system that teaches you how to live in order to maintain your health and be in balance and harmony with the environment that you're in. Is it simple enough?
Yeah, I think the key notion and word that comes is balance and harmony. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So yes, and I think we often forget that we are in constant interaction with what's around us. So we impact what's around us, and what's around us impacts us directly, right? And in order to create this harmony and balance, you just need to recognize what energies you're dealing with and how to deal with those energies. And Ayurveda looks one of the main principles of Ayurveda is elemental principles, right? That if you look at everything that surrounds us, including our own body, if you look at the very core of the materia, everything is consists of, at the level of a subatomical particles, it's made of 5 elements. And those elements are ether, air, fire, water, and earth.
So Ayurveda includes ether into it,
Yes.
which is traditionally, I guess, an unusual element to consider. We know fire, earth, water, and air. What is ether?
Yes, true. Ether is like nothingness, but this is platform within which everything else exists. So it almost, it's the space within which all other elements can exist. That's what ether represents. It's the most expansive element.
What is the role of it exactly? Like, how do we interact with it? Is there a relationship we need to find with it?
When it comes to interaction with elements or relationship with elements, we need to know the quality. Each element has a quality, and this is how you recognize you're dealing with air, or you're dealing with water, or you're dealing with fire. And those qualities can be narrowed to, let's say, 20, the most common, right? Light, heavy, moist, dry, hot, cold, etc. So ether is expansive quality. It's something that expands. It doesn't have any weight. It's expansive, and ether is what connects us to the source. It's an element of spirituality.
So, I mean, it's so much and it goes so deep. I'm sure we could talk about everything for hours. I'm trying to find a kind of thread that would be something that's really useful to people who have never heard about Ayurveda, who are curious to try. Is there something like a simple ritual that you would advise that really could work for everybody, that is easy to incorporate? Like, where would you begin?
Ooh. We started with the notion that Ayurveda is no one-size-fits-all, and it comes to daily rituals as well. But there are a few things that I believe everyone would benefit from, and this ritual that is simple enough and doesn't require much effort, but it has a tremendous impact. And the ritual I'm thinking about is the habit in relations to the food. In modern culture, somehow we pay a lot of attention to what we eat, right? The quality of the food. Organic, non-organic, fresh, not fresh. But we don't give enough attention to how we eat. And Ayurveda looks at too and gives enough emphasis, or I would say even more emphasis, to how we eat versus what we eat. And one of the most core rituals that gives you this connection with the food, gives you with connection with the energy that you're putting into your body is eating sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you sit down for every meal. You don't eat on the go. You don't eat on the move, in the car. You have to sit down, put all the distractions aside, and take a breath, look at your food, and only then begin to eat. And although it may is something incredibly simple and easy to implement, it might be challenging. It took me a while to incorporate this habit into every meal.
Yeah. And I heard something that was very inspiring to me a few months ago. Somebody made a post on Facebook where she said she spent some time, I think it was in India somewhere, some kind of community. And she said what she realized there, that food was there to heal and to nourish. And it wasn't so much for entertainment or even for social occasions. And the food was pretty bland where she was at the time, but that kind of taught her this lesson that in the West we associate it with pleasure and with socialization, and don't think of it so much as something that nourishes our body and that heals us.
It's true, yeah. And we also often use food as a coping tool, right? When we lack something, when there is a gap, when we need a connection, when we are tired, and we often use food just to cope with certain emotional elements of our life, instead of using it as something a little bit more secret, as a medicine very often. And what I love about Ayurveda is that it treats food as a medicine.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm guessing that approach did help you with your health issues.
It did help me with my health issues. It completely transformed the way I look at food, and I became significantly less restrictive. I almost don't have any restrictions in food right now versus in the past. It was all about elimination and not allowing myself, whether it's gluten, whether it's fats, animal fats, too many fruits, etc. Today I have a liberty of choosing pretty much any product I want, but there is this consciousness in terms of, well, whether it works for me or doesn't work for me in this particular moment.
Wow. And would you say, because people have busy lives, and most of the time the excuse is, I don't have the time to cook, I don't have the time to go grocery shopping. How difficult is it on the scale from 1 to 10 to actually cook all these good things for yourself and make sure that you always are consuming things that are healthy and right in season and for your body type, etc.?
I honestly think it's a matter of habit, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we are very used to, especially living back in New York, I remember the pace of life was totally insane, and finding extra half an hour, 40 minutes, or even an hour to dedicate to cooking a meal didn't seem like something possible. Yeah, but if the well-being is prioritized, in reality, it's not that difficult. It just requires a little bit planning ahead. For example, like maybe soaking grains or the night before, or maybe just thinking ahead of time of vegetables you want to incorporate. And once you start cooking, I find cooking itself a very creative process. And yeah.
What about people who just hate cooking? I have friends who have some kind of allergy to go into the grocery store. It's like a day of mourning for them, the day they have to go to the grocery store. Like, how do those people navigate?
Well, yeah, you have to be realistic about what you can and what you can. And none of this has to be needs to be very forceful and unpleasant, right? If there is a lot of resistance, going against the resistance is never helpful. So maybe starting with choosing the food that you don't cook, that you order in restaurants, and being a little bit picky about what it is that you choose and what kind of restaurants you go to and what kind of combinations of food you order, right? And order in which you eat food. And there are things, the simple things, like you go in every restaurant and first thing they give you is the glass of liquid, let's say water with ice, right? And what ice does is just, if you drink that icy water before you eat, it completely kills your digestion.
I know. And I noticed, I also work as a flight attendant. And there is always kind of a joke between flight attendants that when we are on an international European flight and there are a lot of Europeans, people are like, they don't need ice. They don't want ice. Everybody knows that Americans want ice and nobody else does. And then if you have Asians, they want hot water.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, simple things like this, right? So if you don't cook for yourself, but go out, just be conscious of what it is that you order and where it comes from, or maybe get to know people that work behind in the kitchen of that restaurant.
Yeah. And so what do you think? I wanted to ask you also about this idea, which I heard somewhere else, and I wonder if there is some kind of validity to it. When something was born in a certain region of the world, so in this case, Ayurveda comes from India, there is this idea that, well, this tradition was born there. It was born for people who are living in a certain climate, who have a certain gene pool. Therefore, it works for them better than for anybody else, anywhere else in the world. What do you think about this idea?
Okay. Well, it's a valid idea, right? That the nature gives what works best for you based on where you are. So, for example, just a quick example, right? I live now closer to tropics in a very hot weather, and yellow lemons that we are all used to, they're very rare find right here. And normally you find those green limes, right? And green limes, they have a quality, very cooling quality, which is necessary when you live in a climate like this. When you go further, let's say north, the lime will be more difficult to find, and there the yellow lemons grow in abundance, right? Because in those yellow lemons, the acidity has a bit of a heating effect on your body. Right? Easy thing like that. Or certain fruits that only grow in summer, only because, for example, watermelon or melons, they're cooling, and when you consume them, they cool your body, so it makes sense to consume them only during their season when it's hot outside. So that totally makes sense, but when you look at the principles of Ayurveda, it is very adaptable and very flexible, and you can use those principles regardless of where you are. And it actually, what it does, it teaches you, it gives you tools to understand what it is that you're dealing with, based on climate or based on season, I think that it can be applicable through the entire world, right, and through the entire population, and it has a lot of wisdom that has been forgotten somehow by the modern world. Although I see Ayurveda as not a what's the word? I forgot the word. There's a word, the one thing that cures it all.
Yeah, you know what? I think, yeah, like I get it. I get what you mean. Yeah, the one thing that cures it all. Yeah, the answer to all of your questions and
yeah,
the magic elixir.
All right. So there are cases when in today's world, in the present time, Ayurveda be as applicable. It doesn't give you the full picture, only because in the modern society we have very modern diseases and cases where you'll need modern science.
Well, of course. So do you think that, is there a reason that I'm feeling, at least, that there's a little bit of resistance, I guess, in the Western world when it comes to these things? And I think some of it is just like the foreignness of it all, like the word itself is foreign, and the 4 body type or 3 body types, like everything, all the terminology is in, in Sanskrit, I guess, right? What is the way to kind of, I want to say, almost popularize it and explain it, adapt it to Westerners, so that they're not so scared when they hear the thing? They think like they're gonna have to turn into yogis or something and be in downward dog all day long.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a woo-woo element, right, when it comes to Ayurveda, because it talks about the elements that are inside of you and all those energies, magical, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And science cannot find them.
Especially ether.
Especially ether, yeah. Yeah. What could make it a little more popular? I think maybe looking at Ayurveda not as even though I might have called it alternative approach, maybe not look into it as an alternative approach, but as a complementary. Because I think it's a beautiful complement to modern medicines, as it looks at each individual as a unique being with their own unique constitution and their own unique elements, and looks holistically, where what I personally encountered in more conventional medicine is that it's often certain diseases looked at just as a part of you. Like if your hand hurts, they would look just at your hand, forgetting about the rest of your body, right? So although there's place for Ayurveda and for modern medicine and other modalities, I think if it could work somehow together, and if modern medicine could use complementarily some of the wisdom that has been kind of lost, right? Or not as valued in a modern world, I think that would make it a little bit more
acceptable,
not accessible and acceptable. That's the word. Yes.
That makes sense. And would you say that you absolutely need a specialist, like go and see a Ayurvedic doctor? Or can you start with, some research online and experiment on your own? Or is it something that you might majorly mess something up because you misunderstand something and you try something that doesn't actually work for you?
Well, it depends, right? It depends if you're doing it just out of your curiosity and you're just interested in what it is you maybe made of, and you can find some online quizzes, right, and figure out what dosha is your primarily one. But if you're dealing with particular symptom or particular disease, I would definitely recommend to go to a specialist or to a Ayurvedic doctor. It's a vast system. There are a lot of nuances. There are a lot of interactions in the body, and Ayurveda usually tracks, so you come, normally if you would come to a specialist, your visit will start with maybe close to 100 questions, where the practitioner will collect information about the history of all your functions, and then they will examine you physically, look at your structure, look at the condition of your skin, maybe even smell, right? Assess how it is that you smell and how you speak, how fast you speak, your dominant emotions, your tendency, etc., and taking that all together, only they will be able to make an analysis what dosha it is that is part of your constitution, and also what it is that may be out of balance. But it's through inquiry and through a lot of information that you need to provide.
Yeah, so personalized approach is, well, of course, it's always better. But the advice about eating consciously is already a very good start, I think. And since we are at Ayurveda, the products that we work with mostly are oils, I wanted to ask you, of course, also what you think about oils and their role in Ayurveda.
Ooh. Ayurveda works with all senses, and sense of smell is one of the most effective senses when you work with the nervous system, right? You can impact your nervous system because you receive the impulses directly through your nose into your brain. I use essential oils daily. I use essential oils when I offer Abhyanga, which is warm oil Ayurvedic massage to my clients, and then every day I use essential oils in cooking as part of my night routine in order to help me calm down, for my children. And then we now live in tropics, so we deal with a lot of bacteria infections, so we use oils as a natural antibacterials, let's say tea tree oil or frankincense oil, etc. But they are my like right hand tools. I have little bottles spread through my entire house.
Wow, great. Yeah, you know, I intuitionally always liked oils, and like you say, I would always use eucalyptus if somebody was getting sick. I would always have like a little bottle to spray things around, and it was always a kind of like an intuition thing for me that it's something that really works. So now I'm just trying to get deeper into it. And yes, you're right, the smell, it's a big part of it. Yeah, it really can change your mood. It has associations. It's really beautiful. I'm going to send you some, I think, of ours, so you tell me what you think.
Absolutely, I would love that.
So tell me where people can find you.
I have a website, boskeayurveda.com. I also try to remain active on social media. I have my Insta and YouTube, and I try to share helpful tips here and there on Ayurveda.
Great. We'll have all that information in the description. Thank you for joining, and thank you for this insightful conversation, and I hope we have more.
I hope so too. Yes.
And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.